step number one is to determine how big you want your placemat. So these are the chargers that I have, and I wanted my ruffle just to stick out maybe an inch past my charger, and I think this is probably more like an inch and a half past, and I think it's perfect. And the way that I did this is I cut my fabric pretty much exactly the size of my charger. So I folded my fabric over in half so I could do 2 layers at once and get 2 circles at once. I laid my charger on here like this, and I just traced around it with a piece of chalk. I'm not showing you this because I did it once and it was, the audio didn't work. I already have them all cut out. So I've cut out 8 of them already. I decided that I wanted to have a 2-inch ruffle. So then I cut my ruffle pieces next, and I'll show you how I did that. I knew I wanted a striped fabric on this because I just think it's so cute to have the stripes on a diagonal like this. For a 2-inch wide ruffle, I'm going to need to cut my strips 4 inches so I could fold it in half so that it'll be finished on both sides. In order for the ruffle strips of fabric to be cut on the bias, you have to fold the fabric from cut edge over to the selvage edge, which is what I just did there. Then I'm going to turn the fabric around so it lines up at the bottom of my cutting mat. So I square that up and make sure that that's straight along the 0 line down there, and just really flatten out your fabric and make that fold nice and neat along that bottom edge. Then in order to be able to cut this using my rotary cutter and my ruler, I have to fold it in half like so, so that it will be narrow enough to be able to put my ruler across there and cut from edge to edge. If I had left it completely wide like I had it, the ruler wouldn't make it from edge to edge. So I folded it, and now you just cut it with your rotary cutter and ruler, or you can put your ruler down and mark it with a pencil or a fabric pen or chalk and cut it with your scissors. So I'm cutting this ruffle piece to 4 inches because I want my ruffle to be 2 inches. So it'll fold over on itself, basically a self-lined ruffle, so I don't have to make any kind of a hem or anything like that. This first cut, of course, because it was folded, I only cut that 2 inches, but then every subsequent cut will be 4 inches. And I'm having to do a voiceover audio on parts of this video because my microphone battery died on me. I'm not quite used to using a microphone, so I don't pay close attention to my microphone battery. So that's why I'm having to do a voiceover here. Okay, now to determine how long I need to have my ruffle strips be. So I wanted my ruffle strips, or my ruffle, to be 2 times fullness. So that means I'm going to have to measure the diameter of this charger, which is the size that I cut my fabric, and it came to 40 inches. So 2 times that is clearly 80 inches. You could go with 2.5 times fullness if you want your ruffle to be even more full. But I went with 2 times fullness, and I really could have probably gone even more full. Okay, and now with my ruffle strips of fabric all cut, I can take this all to the sewing machine and sew these together in one super long strip, and then I'll cut it down to the 80 inches that I need for each placemat. All right, I've already got brown thread in my machine. I'm going to go ahead and remove the pins. A little bit longer stitch. Let me show you how that looks. I'll trim that off a little bit, and that's how that looks. So I'll just move up my piece so that I keep the right side in front. Lay that down, grab my next piece. Could have probably pressed these, but line it up like that. I'm just making sure that my stripes are aligned there to there so that when I sew, Okay, so you see how these are perpendicular perfectly, and I have a tail, a bit of a fabric hanging above this line here, and I have a little tail here, and then I need to sew from this corner to this corner. Stripes, this stripe. Okay, spin that. And we want to make sure that we go from this corner to this corner. Okay, see how much better that is? Now we've got them actually lined up. And that's important because then when you fold this in half to make your ruffle, that's going to be even. All right, so now let's take this to the ironing board. I'll trim these down and we'll press all these seams. So I've got all of my ruffle pieces pressed. I pressed all the seams. And so here is one of the seams, and you can barely even see the seam because I hid it in between the stripes. You can't even see it. Can you see that right there? I folded it over and pressed it in half. So you see there's the open side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure 80 inches of each of these. Now we can take this into the sewing machine and we're going to ruffle it. So I'm going to attempt to ruffle this with the holding the top thread method. So let's see if this works. It's 2 layers of fabric. I'm not sure if this will work. Okay, it's working beautifully. So what I'm doing is I'm just holding tension on that top thread, just putting it, just a tiny bit of tension on it as it's and it's completely ruffling it for me. See that? And this only works if you're using a fairly lightweight fabric and a lightweight thread. The tighter you hold this, the tighter the ruffles will be. The only thing is if you hold it too tight, you'll break your thread. I'm going to leave a long tail on this, so if I need to stretch out those ruffles a little bit, I can. It looks like it's a little smaller than the circle, but let's take it to the circle and test it. So here's my circle, here's my ruffle. Let's just go around and see. Okay, not quite. So we need to stretch that ruffle out a little bit. Quick tip when it comes to making your ruffles is when you start sewing your ruffle, make sure you pull out a really long tail to start with, and also leave a really long tail at the end, because what that will allow you to do is it'll allow you to move your ruffles and spread them out on the thread. This is the end that I left the tail on, so I can pull this out. I'm just going to loosen this up. So you want to be careful that you don't break your thread, because if you do break your thread, then you're going to lose all the ruffles. All right, I'm going to start pinning this down, and I'm just going to pin this just inside of the edge. I'm not going to line up the edge to the edge here. I'm going to go just inside of the edge so that my circle will be a little bit smaller than what I cut it. At this point, I'm going to give you a little bit different process. You could take another circle and sew it on top of these ruffles all the way around to sew the ruffles in, and sew a backer on this and leave just a small hole in order to turn the whole thing right side out, and it would enclose all your raw edges. Okay, so I'm almost around. I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew together these two ends, and then I'll start sewing all the way around. So let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, so here's the two ends of the ruffle. I'm going to open this up so that I can sew these two ends together, right side to right side. There we go. Now I can turn that. All right. Now I can connect that to the edge of my circle, and I'm going to try to fit that into kind of a gather so that that'll be hidden. Okay, now we'll sew this. I need my stitch to be on the inside of this gathering stitch. Alright, super cute. Now I can take this and press it, and let's see how it looks with the charger. Although I do need to go ahead and finish off these raw seams. I'm gonna serge them, I think. Oh, it's perfect. So cute. Okay, I'm gonna go press it and then serge it. There she is. I just love the way that it frames the charger. I think it looks so cute. And then this is the napkin that I made for previous Thanksgivings that we use all season long. I probably made these napkins 5 years ago. Very happy with the result. Okay, so that ruffled placemat, step 1 to my Thanksgiving tablescape is complete. If you'd like to see the other videos in this project, I have a video on how to make fringe-edged napkins like this. My next video is going to be how to make a floor-length tablecloth or table linen. I'm going to show you how I do my floral centerpiece. But if you want to see any of those videos, you can click on the playlist for my Thanksgiving tablescape. Click right here, and I'll see you in the next video.